Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. Yesterday we were talking about the war against insurgency, especially all sorts of tactics that we are now witnessing, including absorbing into the army de-radicalized and repentant former fighters. Well, a lot of people have their opinions on that. Yesterday in the evening, you probably know, I'm sure you know already, the word came from Aso Rock that the president had now ordered an aggressive push against an aggressive battle against insurgents, and that as a result, this whole matter of aggression, Boko Haram or whatever you want to call it, is going to be over pretty soon. It's interesting that when we were speaking with a former brigadier general, a retired brigadier general in the Nigerian army yesterday on the program. He had also said things along the lines of, look, whenever the instructions come, direct instructions that go and achieve this, there's no doubt that the army can achieve whatever it is instructed to achieve. And he had I think we'd even discussed the whole matter of a quote-unquote agenda. I think the phraseology was that if there is no agenda, then Boko Haram is not a problem. We're talking about also, when we're talking about that idea yesterday of absorbing repentant, rehabilitated, de-radicalized insurgents into the army that most people didn't agree with. Now, Senator Gaidam, who is sponsoring the bill, and he seems to be in a lonely corner as far as I can see for now. Most people don't agree with him, but he thought it was serious enough, important enough to actually hold a press conference yesterday to explain his point of view. Well, moving on from there now, the president has said an aggressive push has been ordered. I think that means that the army should feel free to go all out. So wasn't it all out before? Was it? This is war. Was the army taking it with kid gloves, as it were? Well, my guest, as you just heard his voice, is Chuks Moko. Mr. Moko is a publisher and social commentator. Thanks as always for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Indeed. Well, what do you think about the new order, the directive that has come from the commander-in-chief to his troops now, the Nigerian Army, the Air Force, everybody, Navy, all out? That's my interpretation of aggressive. Say now, do not pull your punches. So were they pulling punches before?
You answered the question already.
Because we also heard commentary that the insurgents are Nigerians too. So I wonder if that somehow was playing into the matter. And now the president has said that, look, enough is enough, because the statement from Aso Rock was that it's enough, just hitting soft targets. I think propaganda, making propaganda for themselves, because the presidency believes, not so much believes, must know after it is being reported to. The president knows that they're on the back foot and that these are like, quote unquote, dying throws. What do you think?
I think that the question has been answered by you. So you mean that all this while that there was no set agenda or goal to deal with the issue of Boko Haram? But really, this reaction and this statement from the presidency is actually instigated by the reaction of Nigerians in the last few weeks. You have had all this, agitation, this outcry by Nigerians because of lack of leadership, as it were, concerning dealing with Boko Haram. And we lost so many lives. We lost so much, not just lives. We lost so many lives, so much dislocation. Not just in the northeast, here in Lagos, in the southwest, southeast, people have been killed. We don't even know the difference between Boko Haram anymore and Fulani herdsmen. They have a mix now. So if he says that, I'm like you, I'm wondering, so what were you doing all this while?
Well, part of it might also be, as you know, a number
what was the instruction all this while?
What was the instruction all this while?
Well, a prominent Southwest man lost his daughter. We have lost so many people. So for how long are we going to be dancing around this issue of insecurity? Because this is not where insecurity started. We have had insecurity all over the world. We have had guerrilla warfare in Colombia, in Bolivia, in Latin America. So now that we have had it for the past 10 years, why are you not dealing with it?
Well,
why are you now saying, right now, go all out and take them out? What were they what was the informal instruction?
the president.
Yeah, all the resources that have been deployed, what was it for?
That is the part. Well, as you know,
so it's an acknowledgement that specifically in this area, there's been lack of leadership, because in the place where you have leadership, this would have been the initial instruction. Take this guy out. Take these guys out. And also you need to look at our kind of brand of politics, our brand of democracy and politics. Because if we were in an era that is no longer accepted, and all that, you have a military head of state, he will go all out. Obasanjo showed that, even as a democratically elected president, Obasanjo showed an example of how to deal with insurgents or radicalism or whatever it is that you want to call it. You kill military police officers in some way in Bayelsa. You should go and ask those people to write their history. Or you kill military people. It was not acceptable. But here we are losing our military men, we are losing our police officers, we are losing our civilians, we are losing children. There's location everywhere. Our economy is suffering, and monies are being voted and appropriated for this. And somebody is actually so courageous to say that you need to pardon some of these people and then create an agency. Why? Because we have a place where we usually will get money from and appropriate and take care of these people. So we don't have to work for the money. We just wait for the petrol to be sold, money generated in dollars, then shared and budgeted. As far as we continue to have this budgeting system, we're going to continue to have those lousy ideas.
Yeah, we're talking about that agency that was supposed to be the bill that Senator Gedam, former governor of Borno State, is sponsoring. He went to great lengths to explain.
What is he explaining?
That they were. In fact, it's gotten as far as Boko Haram is actually ready to surrender, but are apprehensive about doing so. Now we're hearing this from a senator. He's not a fighting man. He might be privy to some information. But perhaps shall we say, uncertainty emanating from within our security architecture itself, what with those those horrible leaks between between December, and in December actually, that we're only getting to hear about in February, that really has thrown something of a, it's been very, very confusing to people. The Chief of Defense Staff was saying yesterday, he was urging all security chiefs to come together, subsume egos, and so that we can, with one clear focus, attack this whole matter. I don't know if that also would have been playing into this whole situation of our not seeming to see clearly what our objective was.
This is a clear case of the complete absence of leadership. And I will explain to you. There's no place you go to on the surface of this earth. And I'll give you a very good example. You go to the United States, for instance, when they had issues with 911, right? I said 911, the 9/11. The security advisor to George Bush, who was seated inside White House, had issues with the head of FBI. The report about what was going to happen months, in fact, close to 2 years before 9/11 happened, the report was put together because they noticed a movement from the Middle East to Indonesia to Malaysia. And those people were making a move into Florida and registering in aviation schools. The reports were there. So this is not the only place where you have a head of agencies fighting and disagreeing and all that and leading to calamities. We have had our own enough share of calamity. When 9/11 came, Bush and Condoleezza Rice were completely embarrassed, and all the people who were in the political positions because of the fighting that was going on. Do you understand what I'm saying? But here, for 10 years going to the 11th year, we have suffered enough. You need somebody to just take responsibility and say, you know what? Take these guys out. Or go and beg, go to Russia, go to whatever, and find out how they have dealt with such issues.
Well,
so we need to stop this storytelling and decide what we want, whether we want our nation, and if we want our nation, and deal with Boko Haram. And by the way, Boko Haram has its history. And so you might forgive I've not joined the issues with the senator who is making this arrangement and whatever. But you see, historically and politically, what he's saying, he might not be able to tell you, but what he's saying is that what happened in Niger Delta in 1999, in the year 2000, 2001, when we had a new crop of politicians, young politicians who came to political limelight and became governors, but they were criminals. Because to ascend power, they created this militancy who drove out all the oil services company from the South. Do you understand? Now those guys have repented. But those are boys in South are well educated. They had their grouses that their resources have been taken. Those that they didn't have enough leadership to galvanize and bring them to the place where they can look. Go to Warri. Go to Warri. Warri is an eyesore as I speak to you today. That's the place. That was a happening place when it comes to oil business.
Okay, sorry. I think this looks like I don't know. This looks like the service chiefs arriving for the meeting that they had with the president yesterday.
How many times are they going to have this meeting? This meeting, what is going to happen?
Well, it's that they're having it in this particular.
Let them resolve their ego problem and save us from Boko Haram. We don't have a standard aggression. No, we just have insurgents.
I don't think the service chiefs have an ego problem. As you know, the nature of the whole thing was Chief of Staff,
yes,
National Security Advisor.
I just shared with you how that in the United States.
Yeah.
I guess that it happens everywhere. But what you have that never shifts is the leadership to galvanize them and give them a mandate. What is the mandate? You set your goal. I want this thing dealt with. You put a timeline. You don't have to be a security expert to know. To see where it has happened before, then emulate it.
That really would be the issue.
Why would they have an ego problem? Even if they are all of the same parents, they are not going to have ego problems.
That would be the issue, because I imagine we should just trust.
If they cooperate and work together, sir.
Then it will be very unfortunate if, as you're saying, they should cooperate and work together and indeed do what the president has said. Take Boko Haram out and all insurgency out in a matter of weeks, maybe months, if not weeks. Take it out, because I think the phraseology came from Aso Rock, once and for all. Oh, if you are now ready to do that, I guess you might have you might have to answer to Nigerians. Why have we spent all of your first term
to go to the
Niger and then this amount of your second term
and the Avengers and go to Southeast and take out high port? Why is it difficult to deal with this matter, this plague, this cancer? Why is it taking forever?
Okay, let's take a break now. By that I mean we actually have on this set an SSA to the President on Public Affairs, and our friend Ajuri Ngilali will also come on. Maybe he'll be able to shed a bit more light on, especially the President's pronouncements in the light of all of
the
this.
Aggressiveness.
Yes, the aggressiveness, and perhaps maybe the anger of some who are even loyalists of the president, who have now become exasperated and are beginning to say, I don't quite understand what's going on. We'll be right back. Stay with us, please. Okay, welcome back, and we're looking at the president ordering the army to go all out now against Boko Haram. Of course, we are saying, so why didn't you say that before? Were they wearing kid gloves before? And maybe it's part of our not fully understanding all that's involved, but it's a relief to hear the president say that Boko Haram and any other insurgents will be taken out forthwith now that this order has come. And we've since been joined by Ajuri Ngilali. Mr. Ngilali is the SSA to the President on Public Affairs. Thank you for coming on, Ajuri.
Uncle Yori, it's always a privilege to be here.
Yeah. So maybe would you like to weigh in, because it was comforting news that the President, being irked by Boko Haram and continually hitting soft targets, now he has said, look, no more play. You know, now we're getting real.
Yeah.
Now, to use this street euphemism, getting real. So, weren't they real before? Is what a lot of people will be asking.
You know, this is where it becomes extremely important that the president is quoted on the merits of what he's saying. when news reports come out and they're phrased in a manner, you see a headline that says President Buhari orders all-out aggressive campaign, right? And you read very carefully the story. You will not see a quotation of President Muhammadu Buhari saying anything like that.
Are you saying he didn't say that?
No, what I'm saying is
Okay.
this. What I'm saying is people make you can take a meeting, right, that was held yesterday, and a reporter can single-handedly decide how that meeting is going to be portrayed. And the idea that the president is saying that, oh, before we were taking it easy, or we better ramp this up and make it an all-aggressive campaign, as if we were playing with kids' gloves before, I think is disingenuous. But let me be very, very clear about what is true. What is true is that the president did tell the service chiefs, and not just today, this has been an ongoing conversation, about what needs to be done in adjustment to what is being done on the ground, right? So on the ground, you have dynamic realities that are emerging. We have to now adapt to those realities and adjust strategy, just like any asymmetrical warfare that takes place anywhere in the world. What is happening differently now, as opposed to what was happening before, is this. We have fundamentally recognized that this is not something that it's not a war between nation states. You're dealing with a threat that is coming into our territory, hitting these soft targets, running out of the territory, and they have a place where they're able to recover, unite, gather, work with their foreign partners, and strategize, and then strike these targets. The challenge we have is in our communities, in some of our villages in the Northeast. We have,
as the president said, he was surprised
Yes,
that Boko Haram, when he came back from Ethiopia, his first stop, he said he was surprised Boko Haram was still active.
that, you know, even that remark, for example, I want to finish my point
Sure.
before I address that. But when you have sleeper agents of Boko Haram who are not carrying bombs, they're not carrying machetes or guns or anything physical that you can see, but they're agents, they're gathering intelligence. They can now go back and find a way to communicate to those who are outside of the shores of the country and in a neighboring country and say, look, this is where they're weak, this is where we can strike. And that is what they have been doing. So now the question is, what is the solution? If we have been able to effectively take all territory within the country from their operational organization, then what it is now is to ensure that those countries that they're having safe haven in deal with the problem. There's only one way to do that. It's to recognize that you're not going to deal with Boko Haram as a nation state, as Nigeria. You have to deal with Boko Haram as a regional bloc. And that is why just some months ago, President Muhammadu Buhari chaired an ECOWAS meeting where he brought all the heads of state together to say, look, it is now incumbent on all of us to not just put money in a pot and say that ECOWAS is dealing with this. We need to now come up with a comprehensive, synergized effort that will bring the chiefs of army staff, chiefs of air staff, chiefs of naval staff together to synergize their operations, synergize their logistics, synergize their plans in such a manner that as a bloc we attack Boko Haram, and not just Boko Haram, the bandits, the herdsmen that are operating all through the West African sub-region, that we close in on them from a perimeter so they cannot escape the perimeter. We close in on them, deal with them from the outside moving in, as opposed to what has been going on where we have been dealing with them from the inside moving out, and then those from the other countries are not doing their part. That's why they can go to Chad, they can go to Cameroon,
Yeah, but the problem,
go to Niger Republic and
that,
recover.
the problem with that, and that you made this point, the latest policy, immigration policy, if one can call it that, among ECOWAS states, is that you can come into Nigeria as of right, from the north, and that's a contradiction.
Let's be very clear about what the policy is.
Sure.
The policy has to do two things here. First of all, aviation. It's through the airports that we have the process of visa on arrival and all of that. I think that has been established. But in terms of the land border, we have an ICT, an automated process that we now have. We've put together about 12 new immigration kind of operation stations where we have been able to apprehend up to 200,000 illegal migrants that were not supposed to be coming through the border through the process that they were coming through. So we have a process in place in terms of the land border for both legal migrants and to deal with illegal migrants. But the key issue is this.
So you're saying that sorts that problem out. The fear that all sorts of people
Right.
and I just say all sorts of people,
Right.
will now, through this quote-unquote loophole, be able to come back into Nigeria in spite of what you've just spoken about, the whole, we got to deal with it regionally and all of that.
No, but that's exactly this is the point. I can simplify it with a small example. If there's a thief in a community, you will not wait for that thief to get to your doorstep before you begin to deal with the problem of how we're going to get this thief. While he's in the community, you will now work with other households in the community to say, look, this thief is in our community, he's amongst us, let us close in together, work together, talk to each other, synergize, and then we'll find this thief, uproot him, and deal with him. We're taking the same steps when it comes to this issue of illegal land migration. It's one thing to, develop your border security, develop your operation centers, make sure your immigration people have the vehicles they need, the logistics they need. That's one thing. But the second level is to ensure that you're working in close synergy with the border countries and their immigration authorities, so that you're not just waiting for it to come to your doorstep, you're dealing with it ahead of time in a regional, with a regional approach. And I think that's not just the effort to stem illegal migration, it's also the effort in terms of counterinsurgency.
So those that will indeed be able to take advantage of that policy will have been filtered, as it were, through so many security layers that they will be the right kind of people that are accessing that policy.
And we're not just doing that as a nation. Again, we have a $1 billion fund. I didn't mention this earlier. When President Muhammadu Buhari chaired that ECOWAS heads of state meeting, they agreed that it would be a $1 billion fund, not just funded by the Nigerian government, by the way, but co-equally funded across the entire regional bloc, to say we're not just going to put our money where our mouth is, but we're also going to ensure that with these funds we're all putting into the pot, that all of us are going to synergize at every single level of our defense operations, like I said, from Army to Navy to Air Force. And I think that's the way forward.
Please forgive me, I want to stay with him for a while. The latest news that the president has now ordered go all out with a view to taking Boko Haram out in months, weeks, if not months, Did the army, did the fighting guys, did the commanders need that directive from their commander-in-chief? It's not a tea party. When you're at war, you're at war.
Right.
We've heard that we're at war.
Absolutely.
And let it be said, this presidency, throughout its first term, we thought that in the first term, they would sort this whole matter out. It wasn't sorted out. Now, here we are making gains. They are on the back foot, we have been told. But there's still an irritant. And that people who have lost loved ones will consider it much, much more than it. They will think it's a tragedy. And now we're hearing that you can go all out. You can throw the kitchen sink at them.
No, well, this is what's very important. It's important for us to be very clear with our people that we're not expecting applause. We're not expecting people to be clapping for us when our own citizens are dying in different parts of the country. Nobody's looking for applause. What we are now saying is that we have made progress, and that's very, very important. But security is not an all or nothing game. Not anywhere in the world, not in South Africa, not in the US, not in the UK. It's not all or nothing. There's going to be security threats. The question is, to what extent are you able to mitigate those elements within your society? For us...
Yeah, but the impression we get is that we weren't trying hard enough.
No. That's I'm coming to that point. Because we've discussed that. I'm coming to that point. The issue is this. If you have a strategy and you have recognized, based on the evolving dynamics, remember, this is not a straightforward thing where the person across from you is wearing the uniform of another country. It's asymmetrical. When you're dealing with evolving dynamics, you have to evolve, you have to adapt. What I like to deal in the realm of facts and figures and not so much on sentimentality, in the sense that when we talk about deaths, these are things that can be verified, facts and figures, casualty rates, right? We know for a fact, and this can be verified by anybody, that from what we saw between the initial threat period of 2010 to 2015, the casualty rate, and what we've seen from 2015 to date, you're talking about an 84% drop. It's not a small thing. There has been progress. The question is, have we dealt with it to a final conclusion? And we have not. And
Why?
And this is what it comes down to. There are several things. When the president says we are going to be aggressive in dealing with Boko Haram, it doesn't mean we are playing yesterday. What it does mean, however, is I'm sure you would have seen the chief of air staff bringing in new Russian attack helicopters. We have new platforms coming in on the seas, new platforms coming in terms of weapons from Turkey and other sources. We're even developing our own drones, our own armored personnel carriers. When you have all of these, it means that you need to be able to, you have to have the equipment, the logistics in order to execute certain strategies. And increasingly now, we're having that. We're still expecting our order of fighter jets from the US, the Tucano planes. These are things that are going to help us execute our strategies as we're moving forward. So it's one thing to try and fight when you have limited equipment. It's another thing when you have all that you need to be able to execute on the strategy that's in front of you.
Chooks, yesterday, the news item that came out, and I think the producers played a clip there of when the chiefs of defense were arriving for the meeting. Newspaper reports showed us all those gentlemen seated around the table with Mr. President, no doubt looking at the security situation. For the ordinary person who is not an expert in what's going on in there, there's been a lot of noise within the presidency in the past, in this month, and not least of which is the seeming infighting going on between the president's chief of staff and the national security advisor, which is a story that we understand was leaked in December. We're getting to hear about it now. It looks like there seems to be confusion in our approach, so much so that the chief of defense staff yesterday again, a lot of stuff is happening. Yesterday again was, urging all the, security chiefs to come together so that we can have a sort of synergy. Hearing these things now, as a citizen, where does that leave you? Because you've heard a jury explain aspects of this situation.
I heard him. But you and I, we're ordinary citizens. You and I, we're ordinary citizens. We're not expert in these things.
We are the people that voted.
Exactly.
And we voted on a certain...
But what I'm expert at is that those two people who are quarreling, they are quarreling because we don't have, quote, leadership in that area. Look, when you assign some... Let me finish.
The grievous charge was made by the NSA that goings on are actually affecting the progress of the war.
They were not elected, they were appointed. Leadership demands that somebody needs to show the way. If things are not working, it's either you have not set your goals or you have not set an agenda and you have not decided on what you want. If you want to take Boko Haram out, as the leader, you will say, take Boko Haram out. Okay, we need this ABC. I give it to you. When quarrel starts,
the complication with what you've just said is that we cannot imagine a presidency that would say anything but take out Boko Haram.
So why is it that if you have told them take Boko Haram out and they're still in that place? That's where leadership comes in. I am a leader in my small sphere. In this organization, there's a leader. If anything goes wrong with this program, I can guarantee you somebody will answer your query. Why? Because it's the one trusted with the responsibility. That's the way it works. Anyway, Trump is showing us how it works. Leadership is not a popularity contest.
Leave President Trump out of it.
No, I'm always citing him.
If a jury were in the US, he wouldn't get a chance. The man would have tweeted the whole policy before he even arrived in the studio.
When you mention Trump, people get offended. But you see, me, I don't care. You know why I don't care? If we had that guy here, and even as he's not here, he provides a very good example on how to live in the times that we live in. Do you understand?
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
That's why I said
the point is
there's only one Trump.
But the point is here,
and Trump is a unique case. So I don't think we can base presidential behavior on President Trump.
The way you can, what I'm saying is that you can sit here in Abuja or in Lagos and observe what he's doing.
Which I'm sure they do. He does.
Then
he gets reports.
Put into use. It's called innovation. When you see what is in existence, you see this newspaper or this phone or this pen.
Yes.
Then you want to do it. Look. Lanxeros has to die so that Microsoft can come into existence, so that iPhone can come into existence. we need to emulate, create innovation, and bring creativity to leadership. It's not a science subject. When it comes to leadership, I'm not a security expert, but when it comes to leadership, I can talk to you about it. Provide leadership for us by saving the lives of people in the Middle East, in the Northeast, and in Uroboland, and in Delta, in Lagos.
The thing is that Ajuri and his
if they are quarreling, remove them, put other people.
Ajuri and his colleagues in the Information Corps will be saying that the president, and I'm guessing, correct me if I'm wrong, that the president has indeed been providing leadership.
Well, absolutely. I think anytime...
You're not going to contradict me on that.
Well, of course not. I mean, it's because it's just the truth. It's not even about whether I'm a spokesman or I'm not a spokesman. He has been providing leadership. He is the president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces. And
but we've not got rid of the problem that he started with.
No, but I would like to finish my point, sure, if I may, Mr. Yori. The issue is this. Up until now, I think rightfully the attention is being paid to what's happening on the battlefield, right? Naturally, that is the case. What many Nigerians, I think, have not been made aware of is the fact that in 2015, there was no national security strategy. There was no roadmap. People don't really realize that. They don't even know that because it hasn't been reported. There was no roadmap. There was no security strategy in terms of these arms of defense, the Navy, the Army, the Air Force, for example. How it is that they're going to function 5 years from now, 10 years from now. How are we going to evolve the institution? My brother, do you know that DICON, the Defense Industries Corporation of Nigeria, that used to produce our own homemade light arms in the 1960s and 70s, was moribund for almost 40 years? It's this president that brought DICON back. We're now beginning to manufacture our own light arms again, our own uniforms again. Obviously, the platforms, the brand new we're building our own armored personnel carriers in Ogun State, our own drones in Kaduna. That is leadership. So for us, yes, there's the battlefield, but there's also the larger issue of institutional reform, which is equally important. Because you have to be prepared for tomorrow's threats as much as you have to be prepared for today.
Excuse me, please. Sebore in Adamawa State, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Uncle Yori.
Thank you very much for calling in, sir.
Yeah, I follow your discussion, and I feel to tell Nigerians, President Buhari has done no Nigerian president ever did. Uncle Yori, you heard what Ngilari have just said now. We are on the right track. The hatred and enmity that generated by Nigerians who have been depriving Nigerian citizens by sectionalism, tribalism, and religion has created hatred for every one of us not to see what good is coming out from this president. You know, hello. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah,
that's your point.
You know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
is there some more?
No. But you know. Maiduguri to Mubi in Adamawa State.
Yes. Okay.
From Maiduguri to Mubi in Adamawa State, there was no single town or village that was in existence before 2015. If people don't know what is happening, we that are in Adamawa State and in the Northeast knew what it was and what it is today. We appreciate, we have seen the challenges, we appreciate what the military and the president and the government is doing for Nigerians. There is no Nigerian president has ever put in this country on the right track like General Buhari has done now. From farming to security to infrastructure, name them. Why this hatred? Okay. We all know. Yesterday I was watching AIT television. They showed a video, a non-entity showing that herdsmen were attacking people in a village. This is a non-entity that has no identity. And this is a national television that was showing this thing to all Nigerians. What manner is this? Things that we did to ourselves. So this hatred, that this man that is staying near you, he has seen nothing good in this country. We have seen good in this country. And we continue to push for what is good, and we remain good Nigerians, and we promote Nigerian unity for our people to get to where we are destined to get. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you very much for calling in. Oh dear.
Mr. Yori.
Do you have to go on a break?
Oh.
Okay, we should continue. What the Boris said, no doubt.
No, there's no doubt about it.
There's
We
no
see the
doubt about what he
infrastructure
said.
in Lagos.
Thank
We see
you
the
very
roads
much.
going to Abeokuta. We're talking about
even latest
Boko
figures
Haram.
from the Institute of Statistics have shown that the
we're
last
doing-
quarter,
we've grown.
we've
GDP
grown,
has
and it's been
grown
the greatest
across the non-oil sector. Has
Absolutely.
Exactly.
But
So
we're
it's not-
discussing
yeah.
Boko Haram is
Right.
it's a cancer.
now, Mr.
It's
Chu,
a plague.
Mr. Nwoko,
The man has done well
Yes.
in many areas. I come here all the time. I praise him and all that, and you go to the street, people are abusing you.
Right.
But you are not helping a man that I'm correcting my child or whatever. It doesn't mean that I hate.
No,
Right, right.
no. I doubt.
The point that I'm making,
I don't
the point
think
that
the
I'm making
gentleman.
that in this area of Boko Haram, if the man made that statement yesterday during the meeting,
Yes.
it means that in that area,
it's a big if, my brother. That's the
I
problem. That is the
doubt
problem.
If
that
he
the man
did,
was personalizing.
I
what
am
he
here
said
to address
you.
the topic of today,
It-
that he made that statement.
Yes.
Whether if he made it or not, we still have a challenge with Boko Haram.
Right.
We should finish it.
Okay.
As a former
And-
military person
and I don't
who
want
has
you to
that
see-
experience and who is commander-in-chief, he owes that onerous responsibility
Sure.
to take. Because
Right.
if he
But-
doesn't do it,
But I don't.
I
think
don't see
you
another
should-
person coming to come and do it.
Right.
To choose.
Now-
I don't. I didn't think Mr. Sabore there was personalizing
No,
what he
he
was
wasn't.
saying.
Yeah.
He wasn't.
No,
you
he
know.
wasn't.
So it's about.
He's
there's
talking
this-
about general
there's
climate.
General
this-
climate
there's
of hatred, yeah.
disinformation,
Yes.
disinformation going on
Yes.
from the opposition
Sure,
and
yes.
to whoever
Absolutely.
may
The
call,
social media and
whoever may
everywhere.
care,
I see it.
You know,
Old
and you know,
videos and all of that, yeah.
That is
That's
there.
where his
You know,
concern is.
But that doesn't mean that there are not concerns
Concerning Boko Haram.
from loyalists.
Yes.
Ordinary, I'm not talking about
People
people
like
in
us.
Asoro.
Right,
Ordinary loyalists on the street who phone into our program and say, look, I voted General Buhari.
Right. But I'm
I voted
concerned
him."
about this.
Absolutely.
But
and this
I'm
is why,
concerned.
Mr. Yori, I started by saying we are not expecting Nigerians to be clapping and to be happy about the fact of what is going on in the
Excuse me,
Northeast.
You know how it goes. Jennifer has called in from Ikeja.
No, that's all right. I'm patient.
Good morning, Madam Jennifer.
Hello.
Thank you for calling in. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I'm here to make my contribution about what our fair guest is saying.
That's Mr. Ngelale,
Yes.
the SSA to the President on Public Affairs.
Yes. I supported Buhari greatly during his campaign because of what he promised to do. But now that his tenure has gone far, he hasn't really done much for this country. So to the public man, I just have one question. So does he have a relative that has died for this our country, Nigeria?
Does he have what?
Does he have a father or an uncle that has paid a price of death
The
for
supreme
this nation?
sacrifice for the country.
Yes, for the
That
country.
question to me.
Does he stay in these villages? Does he have a brother that even schools in Maiduguri? Does he know the road network from Maiduguri down to Lagos? Does he know these things? He's just speaking from the view of from far from his office. He doesn't know what is happening.
Well,
right,
that's a very bold claim. Jennifer, that's a very, very, very bold claim to make
I'm quite
sitting
Mr.
in
Yori,
your sitting room.
Yes,
you know.
Mr. Yori,
I wonder
I'm quite
if
comfortable.
She might possibly
No,
have
I'm quite comfortable.
some of
with,
those
with,
things that
I'm,
she
I'm
said.
quite comfortable.
Have you lost a loved one?
I would like to
this
respond. I
situation?
would like to respond to her. Thank you very much for your contributions, my sister. Despite the fact that I fundamentally disagree with the manner in which you called into question my citizenship and my ties. The nature of it is that, do I have a loved one who essentially the idea is, am I tied to some of the events that are going on now? And I would like to inform. I would like to. I'm coming, please. You're talking about a fair person, right? And these are the questions that are being raised. So the issues are these. I have a father who once served all 3 years in the Nigerian Civil War. He saw everything. He was there from day one to day end. Look, I have an idea of what it is to lose loved ones in armed conflict in this country. I love this country just as much as you do, even if I don't look like you. I would tell you that when it comes to the Northeast and Boko Haram, I happen to be from River State, so I do not have a relative that is living in the Northeast, to answer your question. But I will tell you that during the course of my career as an investigative journalist, both in AIT and in Channels Television, I was very familiar with the terrain and the ongoing events in the Northeast. Now, with that said, the idea that somehow because I work in Abuja, in the presidential villa, that I am somehow disconnected from the realities of the sufferings that are caused by war when I have lost family members in armed conflict in this country, I think is presumptuous and absolutely wrong. But what I will say is this. The truth is, it's an emotional situation in the country that's playing out. And we are sensitive to that. We're sympathetic to it. And there's nothing that you're going to say to people to make them feel happy about a situation where people are dying. What we can do is to be honest with our people, to tell them where the challenges are, and to tell them what we are doing to tackle those challenges. And it's very important that, my brother, Mr. Nwoko, earlier in the conversation mentioned that, look, what we dealt with the Niger Delta, we dealt with IPOB, we dealt with some of these other threats, the Shiites, right, in Abuja and some of these other things. Why can't we deal with Boko Haram? I think it's extremely important for everybody who's watching this conversation to know that there's a context to everything. The Niger Delta threat, for example, the militancy threat, was never a cross-border threat. It was always within a country in a fixed location. This one now is where you have to rely on the activities of other administrations, other governments in other domains. And we have to work with them because Boko Haram is an international threat with foreign partners and foreign sponsors. So it has a complexity that is completely different from anything else that Nigeria has faced. And we need to appreciate that.
Okay. Just before I go on, thank you very much, Ajuri and Jennifer. You see, my experience on programs like this, and you've been there before, you've been a professional journalist,
right.
People don't always catch names. And so they will describe people by the man in the red jacket, that very tall man. So, I mean, we look, I dare say we have Nigerians who are even fairer than you, but that she described you in that way. I just wanted to say that and I didn't really think she was.
We should respect
citizenship.
ourselves, call each other by our names, and all of that.
That is the one problem that I have.
It's all right. I think she realizes the error in her mistake.
Okay,
no problem.
Okay, but I didn't think your citizenship was being called into question
at
all. Dominic in the UK, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Okoyore.
Thank you.
Good morning, Ned.
Good morning.
Good morning, Andy Ngalale.
Good morning, my brother.
First of all, let me come from this angle. I want to thank Uncle Ned Moku for being resolute.
Chooks, Moku, not Ned Moku.
That's much that I heard.
I know him very well.
Okay.
See, Ngalale, question. Ngalale, we have been following you right from time. I do not question whether you are Nigerian or not Nigerian, and I'm sure you are Nigerian. That is what I'm sure. You have changed dramatically. I have been following you right from AIT. This was not your tone. Nigerians are dying. You are from Niger Delta. You come on television. You come on television to begin to say this. When God is flowing in Niger Delta, you know where we come from? You are doing this to us. This is not right. I've never expected somebody like you to come and do this on national television. You are a source from Niger Delta, which I know. You have come to do this when people are dying. When people are dying.
Dominic in the UK. Dominic in the UK. Thank you very much. You see, if you know how we do, we don't attack personalities. What you're doing now, you're leaving the subject. You're leaving the subject matter. You're leaving the subject matter, and that's not the way we go. But it is a sensitive subject.
Yes.
We're talking about this war against the insurgents, and even the president. He said that. Now go all out, and that's what we're looking at against the backdrop.
Mr.
But
Yori,
please, I don't want you to go.
Right, no, I'm not going to waste time. We can't distract too much from the conversation. But I think his point speaks to a larger issue we have in the country, which is this notion that we must recognize our small silos ahead of our nationality. I'm a Nigerian before I'm a Rivers man. That's number one.
Sure.
Number two, I think he's speaking from the UK. I don't know that he lives here, so I'm surprised that he's.
No, he said said he's followed your work on AIT.
Right.
You know,
But the idea that
there are people who see me in a particular way.
See,
Just because I work here.
I want to just say something very quickly. If I had come on this program or any platform, which I have never done, to say all is well in the country, the president, everything is just perfect, nobody should complain, why are Nigerians complaining, why are they wailing, then he should have every right to say what he just said. But I have not said that. No. What I have said is no Nigerian should be happy while all of these killings are going on. And they should hold us to task as an administration to make sure that we do whatever we need to do to stop it.
Exactly.
That's what I've been saying, and that's where we are. But I have a responsibility to make sure that our people have the facts and figures as to what is happening in the country. Indeed. And not get swept up in only emotional arguments. It is extremely important, and I will not be ashamed of that.
No, indeed. You don't need to be. You can't be. But there's no need
to
for it. It's just that
everybody's.
Ajuri, he's a known personality. He's worked professionally in the media.
That's how we got to know
and so
him.
people know you. And so people have known what they think was your bent, and now they see that this is another bent. Hey,
No, but that's where I disagree with. There's no two bents. There is only one way.
Bent.
I'm a patriot. What I believe in is facts and figures. That's how I got to anything that's where I got to. That's how I got here. The truth is this. If I give facts and figures on a situation, I say this is what has gone on. I always tell our people anywhere I go, I say fact check me. All you have to do is open your smartphone and Google what I'm saying. If I'm lying, call me a liar. But nobody calls me a liar because I don't lie to people.
So, to end on the note of the program, now that the president has spoken, especially in relation to this war, we can be hopeful. The president has said maximum force now.
We don't want anyone. Now that he has spoken.
Although he explained that, look, sometimes when you see these headlines, go look at the body
the
copy.
quotation.
What is the body copy?
What is the problem of the media? Yes,
we don't have that.
That's where it goes.
Absolutely.
But nevertheless, I think people are patriotic enough to want to go with the president. And if the president has said that we're going to be rid of Boko Haram in months, and sooner rather than later. Let me phrase it like that. We can take it like that.
I, as his supporter and people who voted for him and constantly get abused on social media, I won't resort. Once he achieved the result, it's to his own credit, and we're home and happy.
The producer is saying absolutely out now. So I'm going to thank you, Ajuri Ngelale, SSA to the President on Public Affairs.
It's been a pleasure being with you. Thank you, Yori.
And Chuks Mwoko, a publisher and social commentator. Thank you, gentlemen, for sharing your perspectives with us. Okay, that's our program. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I'm Yori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.